Hello, hello. We have Mr. O'Neill and Corey. Am I correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Fantastic. Are you guys able to do video?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you see me? There he is.
Aha.
There we go.
Fantastic. Wow, that's quite the gear you have, Jordan.
My brother is a streamer, so credit to him.
Okay. I was like, wow.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the choice of fan film here. I kind of thought that you guys were like creating your own version of Once, but am I wrong?
So this is actually inspired by the Telltale video game, The Wolf Among Us, and we are a non-canonical fan sequel to that video game. In the video game, stay with me, I know this is a little complicated to follow here. The video game itself is a prequel to a comic book series called Fables. So we go right in between that game and that comic book series. Now, if your brain's not broken yet, that's where we fit in. But you're not wrong, actually. I pitched this to the cast and to the producers as I want to do Once Upon a Time meets True Detective. So Once Upon a Time is not an incorrect way to look at it, but it's not a fan film of that show, I should say.
Okay. Makes sense. Corey, sorry, can I see you? Let me see.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Fantastic. All right. The English accent, was that fake?
Well, he's the editor. He's not one of the actors.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. You're
no, that's okay.
I thought I recognized the beard, so I'm so sorry.
No, that's cool.
Okay. Fantastic.
Are you talking about Sherlock's accent?
Yes. I sincerely thought it was a Moriarty thing again. I'm like,
no, 100% fake. Justin is from Houston, Texas, like me.
Okay.
So completely fake. The only reason I knew he could do and what it is it's a British accent that's like been Americanized a little bit, which works for the character. But we did a play years ago, like when I was writing this, we did the Three Musketeers together, so I knew he was able to do that accent. So, but yeah, that's all fake. And that's why what you hear when he's the Mad Hatter, that's his real voice.
I see. Well done. When casting for this, I'm sorry, like just the quality of this fan film was just brilliant. Did you actually have to get a casting director to take care of all this, or?
So I didn't, just because I didn't know what I was doing. Were we to do another one, I would definitely do that. But what I did was a friend of mine, she was casting her film in Houston at the same time, and she was just the director. So she said, hey, I'm going to host these auditions out of the conference room in my apartment building. I'm going to help you produce the first chapter. It was an episode at that point in time. Do you want to just co-host auditions? You be the reader for my auditions. I'll read for your Fabletown stuff. So that's how we did it. So it was me reading most of the time. She read with the people auditioning. And the only reason I bring this all up is because I actually auditioned for my own character because she knew I was too much of a, I'm not going to swear on this thing, I swear. I was too much of a chicken to cast myself. And so she tricked me and put my dialogue with her character names for the movie she was casting and told me I was auditioning for her film when I auditioned for my own. So I only say that, yeah, everybody auditioned technically. So,
okay.
But no, I just was very lucky to be clued into the Austin and Houston acting community as an actor myself. And a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, I had a talented friend who came in and read and they got the role.
I see. So where was a majority of film filmed?
All in Texas. The only shots in New York City where it takes place are the filler B-roll shots of buildings or the train. Everything else was primarily in Austin, Texas, here where Corey and I are located. The office was in Houston, Texas. that beautiful wooden office that we filmed in July and August in Texas with no air conditioning available to us. Yeah, there's in chapter 2 when Emma and I are having that stare down, it looks like I'm scared of her. What I'm doing is I can feel sweat right here, and I know if you move your forehead muscles, it's going to drip right down, and this 5-minute take is going to be just blown. But yeah, so sometimes we're not wearing pants in those shots as well because we're just dying of heat.
Oh my gosh!
But man, yeah, primarily Austin and Houston, Texas.
Okay. What camera were you guys shooting in?
Chapter 1 is a Sony F7, I believe. And then chapters 2 through 6, because we filmed them at a later date, we've shot the first chapter in fall of 2017. And then the rest of it was summer of 2018. That was, I don't know the make and model number, a Blackmagic. Corey, do you know?
I think it was a Blackmagic Ursa Mini.
Oh my God.
I think. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure what they used.
Okay.
Yeah, Corey's probably spent more time looking at this stuff than I have at this point, honest to God. So he would know the technical side more.
Yeah, the Blackmagic cameras have been amazing. I've seen a few fan films submitted this year with those. So
yeah, thank God really they could. Those two cameras worked well together because there's a scene actually in chapter 2 when the 3, excuse me, when the bullet's coming out of my arm. The footage on Snow and the doctor, that's with the Sony that we had shot previously the year before, and the shot of me is with the Blackmagic. And because Corey's just a technical wizard, he was able to match cut those things, and you can't tell that that's 2 different like years that we shot those things. They look like it was all done in a day.
The blood that you guys used, was it syrup? I just felt like there were just a lot of stains on the person's skin there.
Are you talking about like the wounds and whatnot?
Yeah, the blood effects that you guys.
Yeah, I think there was a mixture of syrup, but there's also it varied depending on where we were and whatnot. I know so like there's different stuff you can use for like say the track marks and the bullet wounds because that's just going to be on skin. But the stuff we had to put on, like say the stuff coming out of my nose, we had to make sure that was going to be waterproof because we were also sweating and we're filming that fight scene in a brewery that let us come in and do an overnight shoot. And so we got to use all that beautiful machinery in the background. So it just varied. The makeup artist, Shay would definitely know the proper answer to that question. But I do believe from what I remember, just because it was so close to my nostrils and my mouth, that there was a syrup consistency, if you will.
Okay. The choices and your cuts between the scenes, did you guys actually coordinate with a director of photography for that? Because it was pretty smooth.
Do you mean just between?
Just the cut scenes between each of the, I know like you guys actually cut it between the chapters and such, but the cut scenes were just so smooth. I just had to ask.
Yeah, Corey, you take that one, man. That was all you.
Yeah, when I first was editing them and they were still episodes, we weren't even thinking about that. So whenever Jordan said, "Hey, I'm going to turn this into a feature," we needed to find some of the actual cut points are still the same, but there are some that we had to get creative on because it wouldn't have worked for a feature. So it was more of us just looking at it and seeing where the actual cut points should be. I think there was one scene whenever Lawrence was saying that he's the reason Beast was discovered. We had to change that cut scene because the actual end of the episode ends when Jordan's character says "what." So we actually had to extend it, I think, past that or start it before that. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it was kind of just a, spur of the moment thing that we had to figure out.
Yeah, okay. A lot of times he was able to cut to the title because these were episodes.
It's
the one I noticed this time. Then, dude, I haven't gotten to watch this as a feature until today because Corey and I were just rushing, and I was like, "Yeah, the transition's good." But I love that it cuts from Cindy cocking the gun that was supposed to go to the titles, and it echoes over Emma's face, just stoic. So yeah, I mean, I think I wrote maybe sometimes cut on a sound, but I mean, it doesn't work unless Corey and the rest of the post-production team are in sync.
Yeah, we also played with some of the sound design for those cut scenes to make it flow a little bit better, to have some bleed over, so it's not just you can tell that they're episodes stitched together. We And we talked with the sound mixer as well to make sure that all went smoothly and flawlessly.
Okay. So there would have been no way to have you guys actually like get rid of each of the chapter slogans to actually make the whole story flow. Is what you're saying, right?
There might be a way. It's just we didn't shoot it with that in mind. So I think there is. I just don't know if you can do it and not lose. You'd have to cut shots. I mean, if in a perfect world, we would have had a budget to shoot all the scenes that as I was watching today, I'm like, yeah, I remember what was going to happen there in the script. We had to cut that because we didn't have time. We didn't have the money. Yeah, I remember that would have been a great waste. It probably could have been stitched better. But I think I was just, I can't remember what. I think I just was watching Stranger Things, and then that made me reminded me that Tarantino's movies have those chapter titles a lot of it, and the old stuff, like Pulp Fiction and whatnot. And so I think my email to half the emails I sent to Corey when we were doing post-production they were always prefaced with now tell me if I'm crazy, but can we do X, Y, and Z? And I
think it worked really well with chapter titles, since the original source material that you're basing this off of is comic books and graphic novels, and I don't remember if the Telltale game has chapters or not, but it kind of plays like they do, so it kind of fits into that story world, and they're all from different story worlds to begin with. So I think having chapters really, helped it fit into that world that Jordan was trying to play around in.
And if I was smarter, I'd rewind time 2 minutes and say, yes, it was an homage to The Wolf Among Us and because of the comic books.
Let's see. We got a comment from Fran Campos. He says he loves Fables. Wolf Among Us, great work from with Fabletown. Brian Cello went ahead and said, I was getting Stranger Things vibe from like each chapter heading. So
I think I sent like a screenshot of Stranger Things to Corey and was like, just make it look like this, please. And he's like, and I'm sure Corey probably slammed his head against the wall and was like, okay, here we go.
No, I love Stranger Things.
Beautiful, guys. Beautiful. When you guys actually did the what's it called? I can't call it costumes. Your attire. How did you guys actually decide that it was, I guess, that style that you had to actually put in?
Well, luckily there's a lot of reference material with the video game, because the comic books are great, but the video game is the first time the characters were put into 3 dimensions, and I just happened to own that shirt, that gray shirt that Bigby wears, and I had the black tie, and I know that Anil's, who plays Mowgli, that really, really just cool looking jacket that he's wearing is mine. And as soon as he put it on, I was like, son of a gun, he looks better in it than I ever will. This handsome insert cuss word here. But a lot of the costuming was pulled just from the actors. When you're in the indie world and you've got a shoestring budget, you ask like, what do you have? What can you bring? So I know like Holly's, even the shirt we cut open, that was Holly's, and she said it's old. And I said, like, what does it cost? So I reimbursed her. But a lot of the characters were able to bring in their own things, except the what I call the Marvel scene, the scene post credits. Thank you for running the credits and showing that stinger, by the way.
Yes.
Those were, here's the cheapest way to rent costumes. If you can't find a good costume rental place, you buy them on Amazon, you make sure nobody tears them, and then you mail them back and get a refund. Because those were the ones where we were in the homelands. We actually had, and I think Corey knows this, in the script, there's a whole extended flashback sequence in the homelands that was going to be interspersed throughout the episodes, through the chapters. And it was going to all culminate in the climax. It was going to be how Snow and Bigby met, and it was him setting her free, and it was going to run parallel with her saving him in the climax, which, but sometimes it's funny, CGI wolves are expensive, and trying to create like a Renaissance fair basically at night would cost some money. So you don't do those things. But luckily, being in the hardest part really wasn't the costumes, it was the props, because looking at it again, I was like, oh my God, it's in the nondescript, like I think 80s is kind of what we went for. Not in an overt way, but like you can't show cell phones, you can't show, televisions that are in people's houses or apartments where you're shooting. You have to, be mindful of these things. Luckily, everyone was just game, and if you can tell, like half the set design credits are from the cast, and whatnot. So you just ask people who are passionate and who are on board what they're willing to also bring to the table. And as long as you have an idea, if you can ask, like, so I took it upon myself asking, I want this kind of look, this kind of look. And that's half of producing and directing, is eventually you just got to make a decision.
Well done. Faith Geek asks, did you buy that fairy tale folklore book or make it?
Yeah, Half Price Books has some great stuff. So that's mine. It's literally on my bookshelf against all of my issues of Fables.
Oh,
that's me.
Nice.
We had to invent the Hound of the Baskervilles. We didn't have that. We printed off a cover and we made a sleeve for I think underneath it is like the play of a few good men or something. I just needed something thin to look like a novella. But otherwise, yeah, I own that that fairy tale book.
Nice. When it came down to, I guess, the choice of the sword cane, is that actually based on the video game itself too, or was it just something you had in your stock?
So that was the tough part about doing this, was all these characters you see are either in the game or the comics, except, well, there's 4, I guess, but they're 2 actors, right? The Mad Hatter and the March Hare never mentioned, so I knew those were safe to play with, seeing as how we are a prequel to these comic books. And Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson are also not considered fairy tale characters, so they were never used in the comics. However, they also are in the public domain. That's why you can have a Robert Downey Jr. movie with Sherlock Holmes, and then you can have Cumberbatch playing him on a television show, and nobody's getting sued. So I don't know what brought that on. I think I just always wanted. I knew once I decided that Sherlock Holmes was gonna. It is similar to Once Upon a Time, like you said, how they did a season where Peter Pan was the villain, about taking someone who's iconically a hero and turning them into an antagonist. I knew that Sherlock is always about he's about subterfuge, excuse me, and smoke and mirrors and the power of illusions. So I can't remember where I got that from. I think it's probably because Watson is usually described as having a cane, but I just had this idea of him always having something that was a practical object that could be turned into a weapon. And luckily, somebody I know in Houston who's a big Ren Fair guy, he literally has a sword that looks like a cane. And so, which is great for authenticity, but it brings up the issue of safety, because all of a sudden I have an actor swinging a real sword at my face, and he's more concerned about it than I am. Because I was like, we gotta get the shot. He's like, I'm not doing it, man. You gotta back up. I don't want to cut your face off to make this movie. So yeah, I don't know where that idea came from as far as when I was in the writing stage, but I think it plays very well. And just that image of him, just the reveal that he's not even going to use a gun, that he wants to do something with his hands, is something that's always more personal. I think it paid off.
Well, I commend the choreography on that one.
Thank you, Johnny Ringo, our stunt choreographer.
Brilliant.
And Corey, I mean, that thing is nothing without Corey's editing as well, I got to say, because, otherwise, if you do it in a wide shot, it's just a guy swinging a sword at me and I'm 5 feet from the tip and I'm going,
oh, and
makes it look.
People counting steps, you remember?
Yeah. So whoever, you can't tell. So
you're doing it at half speed.
Yeah. You did you speed it up? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, you tell them, what does the actual footage look like, Corey?
So the actual footage is everyone doing it at half speed, and whoever's face is not on camera. So if it's Jordan, it's the other guy talking, and they're counting out the steps. So
like it's a dance.
Yeah. It was fun to edit that scene, but I think it turned out really great, especially with Morgan's sound design. It really worked out really well.
She's a genius.
Yeah.
Morgan Honecker, my God.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the sound design, how was the process with that? Were there any difficulties?
It was crazy. So here's the thing. I know Corey from our college days, but to this day, I have never met Brian Satterwhite, the composer. I've never met him in person. And I've also never met Morgan, who did all the post-production sound mixing. And Morgan was never on set. She was never a production, holding the boom pole or anything.
Yeah.
And I knew that we had somebody special when we had finished chapter 1/episode 1. And we got to the part where Beast runs into that woman. And that's actually the woman who helped me cast the film. That's her scream. And the scream you're hearing is not the scream that was recorded. The scream that was recorded was just a basic, you know, like, ah, like, I'm not going to blow your ears out right now, but it was just your basic. She yelled in a mic in her closet or on her phone. And Morgan took that and made it blood curdling into this shriek. And I asked her how she did it. And she started texting and emailing me the way she did it. And I didn't understand half the words because they're all sound terms. And I said, I don't care anymore. You're a wizard. Here's your check. So I wish Morgan could be here for this. I believe she's busy on another project. She's always busy, so it's hard to get a hold of her. But she's just a genius at what she does, and that goes for Brian, the composer, who agreed to do this, even though he's he's worked on like Disney films as a composer. Justin Durbin, who did all the VFX, who we only talked over. Everybody. We were working remotely before the pandemic on the post-production. So I have to commend all these guys for working in sync, and Corey, who should be listed in the credits as like, director of post-production, because he's kind of like, I'm like the guy in the office at the factory floor, and Corey's on the stairs yelling to everybody on the conveyor belt, like, this is what we're doing, because I have the blueprint.
Yeah, they were all great. They were all really great to work with, even though I never met them in person either. I don't know, somehow we worked like a well-oiled machine. I don't know how that worked, because we've all never met each other. Except I've known Jordan since college, but yeah, I think we were all just meant to work on Fabletown. I don't know.
Oh, and that's how the legend begins.
Yeah.
All right. You wrote and directed the film, and you acted in it. How did you do it? Because I know acting and directing at the same time is always, a difficult process.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, we saved money because you didn't have to pay the writer, the director, or the actor who was there the most days, because this guy. I was very lucky. The reason, I have a background more in directing than I do acting, even though acting is my main pursuit. Because Corey and I are both film majors. We went to school for these things, and I think we probably dabbled in some stuff in college, where maybe I was directing and he was directing something and I was acting in it, or something like that. But this is the first time I had done it. But the key to it is you really have to trust your director of photography. You've got to trust the technical side. You have to trust that the production side is going to take care of itself, and that you've done your work in pre-production. And really the key to all this, who's the unsung hero of the whole thing, is Christine Chen, who is the assistant director, who was, for those of you that haven't worked on something where it has like all these positions, the assistant director is usually the one calling action and cut. And she was I trusted her with everything. It wasn't me running to the monitor every time to review the footage because if I have to go review the footage of me, we're never going to get the shot, because I'm so overly critical, like every actor is. So, I mean, she was key. She's the reason we got it done, because she was doing so much. Everybody else was like, doing multiple jobs, but she really was. She was, directing sort of the floor, I guess, while I'm the one talking to the actors, and only talking to them between takes, saying like, hey, you go further with it, because it's nerve-wracking if you're the actor and you're acting opposite your director. That can be a little weird. You can fall into the hole of criticizing your performance as you're giving it, and I'm like, look, don't worry about it, you're doing great, you're doing fine, because while you're worrying about your performance, I'm worrying about mine, and then we're not going to get anywhere. But that's why I think also episode 5 is one of my favorite. I keep saying chapter 5, excuse me, is one of my favorite chapters, because I'm not in it as much, and I got to direct a lot of that. Like, I really loved that we were able to get that horror movie moment of Sherlock not in frame. The camera flips over here, it whips back, and he's just there, which was so silly to choreograph if you get to see the behind the scenes of it, but it plays so well. For anyone out there, I don't recommend you produce, write, direct, and act in your own stuff. I think it's too much work. I don't think I would do it again. I would delegate those roles a little better. And I've also on the producing isn't my greatest strength. I can do it, don't enjoy doing it. But I'd like to say that Fabletown is as good as it is almost in spite of me, because I think I took too much on. And really, these guys in post-production and Christine on set, they just made it look like a sports car. when I thought, oh my God, is this thing going to even run once we wrap production?
Thank you, Corey.
I mean, they had great footage and great coverage, so they did everything well on set too. It made editing a lot more fun than editing can be. So, and yeah.
Except for the times where he would text me, "Hey, I don't have the shot," and I go, "What?" And literally every time he would text me, it just became what was it? We called it. It was a tradition, right, Corey? Because as soon as you would text me, you'd find it.
As soon as I would text you, I would find the shot. Yeah.
Oh.
So, like after the fifth time, I'm like, is he just like doing this on purpose? Like,
no, I mean, it was a lot of footage because it was shot on Blackmagic and RAW, so there was multiple hard drives, and sometimes footage just gets lost a little bit, and you got to go find it. So
okay, it wasn't hard.
We found everything. We found it all.
Good. Was it hard to sync? I know, like, sometimes like film and sound itself actually go out of sync with the quality of a Blackmagic.
We never had any issues, I don't think, with syncing audio. There are some times when you're bringing in a sequence to color grade, because I also color graded chapters 2 through 6. Sometimes DaVinci Resolve would choose the wrong clip when you would bring it in. And so you'd be scrubbing through your video and then you'd see a shot from a scene that's not even in that chapter. And you're like, holy crap, why did it pick that? But luckily, DaVinci knows this, and they've built in a failsafe where you can choose an alternate take that it thinks is the right one, and it usually finds the right one. But in terms of audio, we never really had any issues with syncing. They did a good job on set making sure that stuff was pretty well organized. So
shout out to Drake. Paired, and he's a wizard. He was an on-set sound mixer.
Yeah.
Wow. Well done, guys. Well done. In the process of actually trying to choose people's characters, were they already did you just base them off of the video game and the comic books, or did you actually translate to your own?
So for the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and Sherlock and Watson, that's all me, because that's all my version, as well as obviously the actors bring their own choices, and a lot of times they get to know these characters better than I do. For the characters that are in the video game, I said, look, like Beauty and Beast are in the video game. I said, you guys look at this. Granted, Beast, I want you to look at this side, but Boy Blue is integral, to the comic books, and he's not in the video game. So I think once we had Noah, who plays Blue through chapters 2 through 6, I'll shout out to Noah, because that's his first film role ever. I met him doing theater in Houston, and the kid is a pro, and he's even better now than he was when we shot this. I sent him and I said, look, I know you're only like 14 or whatever, and this is a little bit of an R-rated comic book, but here's Boy Blue's origin story. And I found it online, and Boy Blue is such an interesting character. So I basically what I did was I told the actors, hey, this is, where we're coming from. This is, what a lot of the fans are used to. Here's the video game, because the video game, is, it's got sound, it's got a voice, and there's movement, how the characters walk, how they carry themselves, what their inflection or the voice actor's interpretation of how they would speak is. So it was like giving them the groundwork, and then just also letting them explore. Because a lot of them were cast. So I wrote this thing in 2015. We cast it in late 2015, and we didn't shoot the dang thing until 2017 or 2018, because we, real life intervened, and we lost the big backer who was going to fund the whole first chapter, and they couldn't fund it. So it was up to me and Indiegogo to figure it out for 2 years. But what that meant was like actors like Neil, who plays Mowgli, or Holly, who plays Cindy, or Emma Van Laer, who is just incredible as Snow White. They got to kind of sit with the characters a little longer, and they got to do a little more digging, a little more research. And so by the time we got to shooting, they just were ready. They brought it. And I just couldn't be happier with all of them for being so directable and for bringing such strong choices and opinions. Because it's all about collaboration in the end. And our set motto was always, even though my name is on this thing across the board, at the end of the day, the best idea wins. Whether that was an actor, or whether that was Corey, or whether that was, anybody who had notes about the script. And I think that just shows. I hope that answered your question.
No, that does, and I'm very grateful that you're so humble about being a director, because that's usually what the director's job is. He's supposed to be heard, and his ideas are supposed to be out there. So that's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, we get to share all the credit, but then I get to take on all the blame when you don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. We'll throw you the book.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I guess I gotta ask. I know the whole Fable thing is, your fandom. You love this thing. Why a fan film? Like,
I'm glad I heard you ask this question earlier in previous days of the festival, because I was like, oh, that's such a tough question. And the honest answer really is this. In 2015, I was out of school for about a year, and I just got signed to a talent agency. I was ready to work here in Texas, and all the TV shows left. They just were like, nope, we're not paying those tax incentives. We're going to go to New Orleans. And then that turned into, we're going to go to Atlanta. Peace. What do? I'm doing theater. And then here I am sitting with the film degree, in my back pocket. So the idea became, okay, I want to write something that I can potentially also act in, but it's got to be something that, despite my age and other actors in my age range who are also hungry for work, something that can be taken seriously. And that's about 2014 was when The Wolf Among Us came out, and I was playing through that. And Once Upon a Time was also on television. And I realized, okay, so if you do something with fairy tale characters, they can be as young as you want them to be, because they're actually thousands of years old, and you still buy into the stakes. Because none of us are going to get cast as the lead on like CSI or something. We all look way too young, or are too young to play those parts. But if you just sprinkle some of that magic on there, and lean into an audience's willingness to, disbelief, then you're good. So really, it was just The Wolf Among Us was so prevalent on my mind, and which led me to be a fan of the Fables comic books, that I was just looking online, and there's hundreds of thousands of Batman fan films and Star Wars fan films, which are fantastic. I love that those keep getting made. But there was nothing about Fables or even like fairy tales, which just baffled me. But it's just because I think I got hooked into it so much. So I just saw where there was sort of a hole to be filled.
okay.
Granted, if you had told me that when I was writing this thing that, hey, you won't get to see the full thing for almost 7 years, maybe I would have taken a step back. But here we are, 6.5 years, some odd later. And I learned so much about it. I wouldn't trade the experience for the world. I have to credit my mother. When I was hesitant, she called me up and she said, I said, Mom, I just don't know if I can do this. Maybe this is crazy. Maybe it's not worth it. She says, Jordan, God willing, you're going to live to be 80, 85 years old someday. You going to regret it? Well, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
So I got to give her credit too. But just why a fan film? Because passion is going to be one of the driving forces behind fan films. But you also have to, I think, pair that with humility and respect for people like Corey or Morgan, who know more than you do. And that's what gets the quality on the screen.
Brilliant. Corey, were you thrown into this and anchored, or was this also a choice?
I mean, he came to me pretty late in the game. I had never heard of Fables. I had never heard of The Wolf Among Us. I knew nothing about the property when he came to me. But I know Jordan, and I know he's a great writer and director. And if he's passionate about something, you should probably be part of it, because it could turn into something really great. And yeah, I'm happy I said yes.
Yeah, thanks for saying all that. Your check is in the mail. Appreciate those kind of
Thank you.
And any words of wisdom in getting into film?
You have to pair imagination with reality. Be ready to kill your babies, as the phrase goes. You have to be willing to adapt and willing to know when to pick your battles. And if you do that and you have the right team behind you, the sky's the limit. But you just have to come from that place of, I think, humility and respect and collaboration, because it's collaboration. It really does take a team. That's why those credits in Marvel movies or whatever you're watching are so long. There's a reason. So.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, don't be afraid to speak your mind if you think there is something that might improve what you're already making. Luckily, since I was a friend of Jordan already, I knew that I could speak my mind if I thought like something needed to shift it, if something needed to shift or we needed to cut a line. So don't be afraid to speak your voice if you think you have something that might elevate what you're making, even if it's not something you're directing, if you're just working in post-production or, you're just, I don't even, just collaboration, as Jordan said, is really important. And don't be afraid to speak your mind. And if you are in charge, don't be afraid to listen to other people and take their criticism, because they're not trying to say anything bad about you. They're just trying to, they're trying to do what you're trying to do is make the best possible thing you can. So collaboration is really key.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everybody that got to actually see Fabletown, catch it again. Do you guys have a website that they could actually go to?
So the whole thing is in chapters, it's episodes. On YouTube, if you go to fabletownseries.com, that will take you to episode 1. And look at that little sidebar, and 2 through 6 are right there. It's all out there.